Hi everyone, nice to see you again. In this occasion, I would like to explain to you about passive. There are four important things you need to know about passive. First, the pattern of passive. The general pattern of passive is to be plus verb 3. Once again, the pattern of passive is to be plus verb 3. And then the second one. You need to know about transitive versus intransitive verb. A transitive verb is a verb that is followed by an object, while an intransitive verb is a verb that is not followed by an object. So, we need a transitive verb in active sentence because it has an object to be changed into passive. Only a sentence with a transitive verb can be changed into passive. Why? Because a transitive verb has an object after it, while in the active sentence, we need the object as the subject of the passive sentence. So it's clear that we need a sentence with a transitive verb to be changed into passive. Now let's find out, are the verbs in the sentences transitive or intransitive? The first sentence. My mom brings me a cup of milk. The sentence has a transitive verb. The verb is brings. Brings here is transitive because it is followed by objects. We have two objects here, me and a cup of milk. And then the second sentence. I sent that letter yesterday. That sentence also uses transitive verb. The word sent here is transitive because it is followed by the object, that letter. And then the third one, Michelle is walking to the restaurant. This sentence has an intransitive verb. Is walking, it is intransitive because it is not followed by an object. To the restaurant here is an adverb. And then the fourth one, I am living in Semarang. That sentence also uses intransitive verb. Am living here is intransitive because it is not followed by an object. In Semarang is an adverb, not an object. As conclusion, the first and the second sentence can be changed into passive because they have transitive verbs or they have objects after the verb. While the third and the fourth sentence, they are intransitive, so they cannot be changed into passive because they have no objects. The third important thing about passive is by phrase. It is used in passive sentences when it is important to know who performs an action. So, you need by followed by the subject, yeah, by phrase, if it is important to know who performs an action. For example, this sweater was made by my aunt. In this first sentence, you have by my aunt. So this sentence has a by phrase. Why? Because in this sentence, the writer or the speaker wants others to know that it is handmade by his or her aunt. So by my aunt here is important because we need to know who performs the action. Compared to the second sentence, that sweater was made in Korea. Here we have no by phrase because without mentioning by phrase, it's already clear that the point of this sentence is the place where that sweater was made. And then if we ask who made that sweater, then of course it's people in Korea. And then the last thing about passive is verb 3 as adjective. Sometimes we find a sentence with to be and verb 3 that is not a passive sentence. Yeah? So you have to be careful in deciding, oh, this one is passive or this one is not. Now, let's take a look on the first example. Chris was excited about the game. You have the to be was and then followed by verb 3, excited. But the verb 3 here is not a passive because the word excited explains about the condition of Chris, the condition of the subject, not the thing that was done by the subject or Chris. So excited is an adjective. The second example, I am bored with my daily life. The word bored here is also an adjective because it explains about the condition of the subject I, not something that is done by subject I. So, bored is an adjective. So if I may say, how to differentiate verb 3 as passive and verb 3 as adjective? By asking yourself, is actually the verb explains about the condition of the subject or the thing that is done by the subject? If it is explaining about the condition of the subject, it means it is an adjective. But if it explains about the thing that is done by the subject, it means it is passive. Now, after you have understood about those four important things about passive, let's try to change the active sentences into passive. First, people grow rice in Indonesia. If you change it into passive, it becomes rice is grown in Indonesia. We do not need to mention the by phrase there because without mentioning the by phrase or by people there, it's already clear or the sentence has a complete meaning. And then the second one, Jim wrote that letter. So it becomes that letter was written by Jim. We use the to be was because we have the verb to here. So it is simple past tense. While for the first sentence, the active sentence uses verb 1. So it is simple present. Therefore, the passive is changed into is grown because it is simple present. And then the third sentence. The accident happened yesterday. In this sentence, no change, or we don't have any passive pattern for that sentence because it has no object, or the verb happened here is an intransitive verb, so it cannot be changed into passive. Okay, then let's try to change the passive sentences into active. So if you can change from active into passive, um, supposed to be that you can change also from from passive into active. For example, I give you a sentence or a passive sentence. Yeah. I was invited to dinner by Mr. Brown. How to make the active? You just mention the by phrase as the subject first. Mr. Brown. Yeah. And then the passive is was invited. It is changed into invited in active. And then I, the subject I in passive, if you change it into active, becomes the object. So I is changed into me. And then to dinner. So the sentence becomes Mr. Brown invited me to dinner. And then the second example. Napa Valley is known for its excellent wines. We have no by phrase there. So we just use people or someone as the subject of the active sentence. It becomes people know Napa Valley for its excellent wines. Is known is simple present tense. So if the passive is known, it is changed into active becomes know. And then the last sentence. Are eagles found in Alaska? This is actually to be, are, and then found verb 3. If you have this kind of pattern, it means it's a question using simple present tense. So, you should make an active sentence using simple present tense also. It becomes, do people find eagles in Alaska? Okay, because it has no by phrase, so you just use the word people here. And then are found is changed into find. And then the auxiliary is do. And then eagles as the subject of the passive becomes the object of the active. And then followed by the adverb. Do people find eagles in Alaska? Alright, I think that's all. I do hope that you can understand this material well. Thank you very much, everyone. Stay healthy and still stay at home. Goodbye.